gorilla stomping in a zoo. Check the vocals, animals gather right.
Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. Where in today's video I am back in the kitchen and I'm going to be sharing with you one of my go-to recipes that I keep in my arsenal of goodness. Alright, that recipe is going to be for homemade spaghetti sauce. Now my recipe for spaghetti sauce has been evolving over the years. Started off pretty basic, but I've kind of added things along the way that's brought it to a really nice taste, and it's something that my wife, my kids and others have enjoyed and really commented on how nice and tasteful it is. So I'm going to be sharing that with you guys because this is a recipe I don't do very often. I usually do it maybe once, maximum twice per year, because I do a really big lot of it. And in particular I do about 8 liters of this in one go, and then I bottle it off in about 16 pint-sized jars, and then we use it throughout the months, and you know, every couple of weeks or every month or so we'll have a meal of it. So it lasts us a good long while in our food rotation and meal rotation. So today is the day that I need to do up another batch because we're down to our last bottle. So I figured what better time than to make a video, bring you guys along for the process, and really just get this documented and into video form for you and other people important to me can follow it in the future and kind of make this recipe last a while for days to come. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this. I'll bring you along. There's nothing too fancy about this recipe. Like, I'm not going to be taking fresh tomatoes and making my own paste or making my own sauces. That's not the purpose of this recipe. This is to be a recipe that anyone can do. Very simplistic, but adding the right elements along the way is what really brings out the flavors, the textures, and just gets that finished product that really says, wow, this is a good sauce. Alright, so I want to bring you guys along, like I say, get this documented, have it on video for years to come, just in case we lose the recipe or something happens to me. You know, the recipe's going to be here for all to enjoy, and I hope you guys try and recreate it yourselves, and I hope you enjoy it as much as we do. So with all that said, I'm going to take you back here, review the ingredients, and then we'll get into the preparation process. Let's get started. Alright, so starting off, here's all the recipes. I got it laid out. Going from left to right, there's no particular orders, no particular order of how they're going to be added into the recipe right now. But we got about 4 pounds of ground beef. Then we got salt and pepper, 2 different kinds of pepper. We got fine ground and then the more coarse ground windmill style. Then we got some extra virgin olive oil, 4 onions, 4 peppers. I got a full bulb of garlic here. I'll probably be using about 10 cloves out of that. 2 cans of pieces and stems mushrooms. 2 cans of tomato sauce. These are 680 mils each. And then I have 6 cans of Primo Thick and Zesty original recipe spaghetti sauce. And these are also 680 mils. So 6 of those. And this is not sponsored by Primo. This is just the sauce that I love. It's what I've always used in my spaghetti sauces, and I've found a way just to bring everything out of that, and we totally enjoy it. And finally, we have 2 cans of diced tomatoes, and these are 796 milliliter volume diced tomatoes. So there you go. That's all the ingredients that are going to be used in this recipe. So with no further ado, let's get into the prep. Alright, so here's my little workstation for today. First prep is going to be the veg, and like I say, we got 4 peppers, 4 onions, garlic, and I'm just going to begin by getting these peppers chopped up. And overall, I find with this recipe, this is kind of most of the work. Getting your veg chopped up finely and really getting into the hands-on stuff. Alright, once you get it all chopped up and in the pot, it's not so hard to just let it cook. So this is always the more involved part, like I said. Now, you may have different methods for chopping up your peppers or onions, so don't mind me and how I do mine. It's just the way I've done it over the years, really. So as long as it gets chopped up, that's the main thing. So going to kick you guys into a little bit of music here now as I just chop these things up, and we'll skip along, speed through that, and we'll get back here and start combining things, and I'll show you the whole process as we go through, so don't you worry, you're not going to miss a thing. Alright, so in goes the fourth pepper. That wasn't so bad. So I'm going to move on to doing the onions. Let's keep going. So when you're looking at your onions, they don't necessarily need to be large, small, just kind of, I just go with 4 onions. Whatever ones I grab, that's what I use. Onions really put a big amount of taste into the sauce, and we are big fans of onion, and I think most people, as long as they don't have any sensitivities or gut issues around onions, most people should find the taste pleasing, even if they don't know it's in there. And that's a 100% assumption on my part. So if there's anything in this recipe that you don't think you would enjoy, feel free to modify it as you see fit. But I can tell you that I have not found one person yet that does not enjoy my spaghetti sauce. So you should be pretty safe with putting this in with your recipe as well. That's the first onion cut up. We'll get that in the mix. So let's do that 3 more times. And that'll be most of the veg done, other than the garlic. Alright, so there you have it. 3 more onions chopped up and ready to go in the pan. So at this point now I'm ready to take my garlic and I'm going to separate some cloves off of it, and we'll get those peeled, crushed, chopped, and we'll add those into our veg mix as well. So no particular garlic or anything, just get the cloves you can get. These are some pretty nice large cloves on this one. So I usually aim for about 10 cloves of garlic. So if that ends up being large cloves, so be it. I will allow the fates of the garlic to work their magic. So we got 7, 8, 9, 10. Ditch the 2 small ones. So yeah, pretty much a full garlic is just as well to say. That would probably be a better guideline for this recipe, just be 1 full garlic. Go ahead and get these peeled. Check that out, it's a pretty hefty clove. Okay, so I'll get these peeled and we'll be right back. I'll just show you how I crush them. For those of you who may not be familiar with processing garlic and using garlic in cooking, you always got to allow for people who are new to this, right? Everybody got to start somewhere. So I'll get these peeled and we'll be right back. Alrighty, so I've tidied things up a little bit here, if you may have noticed. Got rid of all my peels and pieces of pepper. So, for those who may be new to garlic, once you peel it, this is what you have. Your little clove has a hard bottom. That's what was in the soil, exposed to the soil, and the root. And you may have a little green sprout at the top there. Alright, so we're going to be cutting the top and the bottom off, and we'll be keeping everything in the middle. So you're only taking about a ½ centimeter off the top and the bottom. And this is a very pleasing part because the smell of the garlic really starts to get released into the air. And it's very pleasant. Now, some people don't like the smell and taste of garlic. I don't know what to say about that. I think they're missing out. But to each their own. We love garlic. It's detoxifying, good for your body, and just brings an amazing taste to the dish. So once you got your tops and bottoms taken off, now this knife is a little bit thin for doing this. I'd prefer to use a wider knife. But basically I'm just going to lay the clove down, lay the knife across it, and then I give it a smack with the palm of my hand just to crush the garlic. Like that. Okay, and I'll bring you in a little bit close and I'll do a couple of those a little bit closer so you can see. So again, taking a pretty large clove here, put the knife across it like such, being very careful to avoid this edge with the palm of my hand, and just going straight down so it gets crushed. Okay, so I'm going to do that with the rest of these. And you can buy garlic crushers, mincers. I just haven't gotten around to buying one. This is just my method that I use and I've always used. Not the safest thing, I'll admit that. Right, you don't want to go accidentally slicing your wrists here. So I should not be promoting this. Okay, so those are all crushed. Now I'll proceed to just chopping them up a little bit finely, and they'll go into the mix. Doesn't have to be, too accurate or crazy. Get them into small little pieces, so if you get a couple pieces in your sauce, you're not going to get a big crazy burst of garlic that might throw somebody off. But for the most part, by the time this sauce is finished, most of the garlic taste will be out of the garlic itself and into the sauce, so each little piece is not going to have the same kick that it would at this stage right now. And some people may decide to leave these a lot bigger, right? And you can hope that they hold on to more garlic taste and you get those little bite-sized bursts of garlicky flavor. And that's perfectly okay as well. And garlic's very sticky on the fingers, just so you know, right? Like, you can see it's sticking to the knife here. It's a sticky root. Alright, there you have it. So that's the garlic done. I'll go ahead and add that into our mix. And there we are. We're pretty much finished with the cutting board at this point in time. And we can move on to some of the easier stages. That's most of the work right there just happened. So I'll tie you up a little bit. It's always a good idea to clean as you go. Just makes things easier at the end. And I've been doing that actually off camera. We've got some dishes done and moved out of the sink to give us room. But the cutting board is going to go in the sink, and I'll just tidy up the work area, and we'll come back and continue the prep. So the last bit of prep we have, let's say I got some good old Walmart brand name pieces and stem mushrooms, great value, and you can find whatever ones you prefer. These have a pull tab. Some may have a top that requires a can opener, but I'm just going to make a small gap in the lid right here and get rid of the juice. So this top is actually quite convenient for getting rid of the juice. Otherwise I used to have to cut the lid the whole way around and then push it into the can to squeeze the juice out. But these are, you can give this a good shake and get the juice out. Same with this one, second can. Alright, so that wasn't much in the way of prep per se, but those are done. Little taste. Love it. Alright, let's go back to the stove. Alright, so our 2 cans of mushrooms are also going to go in with all of our prep to this point. So you may notice a theme in this pot right here. We have all of our veg and root vegetables, aromatics, and mushrooms. Any plant type material. Okay, so that's all going to be in this pot. At this point I'm going to grab some extra virgin olive oil, and I'm going to give this a good coating of that. Okay, just to get those nice oils in there, release all the vitamins and minerals. Your fat soluble vitamins and minerals need to come out of this as well. So, you know, fat is not always a bad thing. So a nice bit of healthy olive oil goes a long way towards releasing everything out of here. Alright, so with that done, let's put it on highest heat possible and we'll start getting all this fried. Because I find a couple of little mushrooms in the can to enjoy. So I'm going to get this cooked and reduced down. When this much is done, that's when I'll move on and I'll get my ground beef cooking as well. We are going to do them separately, but we will combine everything, and I'll explain that as we go. So get everything mixed in nicely. Like I say, we got a nice high heat started, and just going to be stirring this, keep it from burning up, kind of get a little bit of caramelization going on, not a burn, and go till everything is soft and translucent, especially the onion, and let that garlic get the taste in amongst everything. And you know, you don't need to worry too much about reducing the juices. We will be straining that off later. So I'm just going to continue minding this, keep close attention on it, keep it stirring regularly, and I'll come on back when this has reduced down and it's pretty much done. Alright, we're back. Things are reducing down nicely. You can see the onions are sticking to the spoon, peppers are softening up, and every now and then, if I leave it a little bit, you may get a little bit of charring. Not even so much charring as crisping of a mushroom or something like that. So we're pretty much at the point where this is done for now. Just making sure it's all uniform and tenderized. So we didn't end up with any big amount of water or juice in the pan, so there won't be anything to drain off here right now. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to turn off the burner for now. And I'll get this laid aside and we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so this one is done. I'm just going to put a lid on that, keep the heat in. And I'll move it over onto some oven mitts that I've laid on the counter here. And I'm going to take out a new frying pan. And this is the one that we're going to fry up the ground beef in. And I'll explain as I go. Mainly I can explain now is that I want to fry these and have them pre-done before everything goes together. And that's going to be because, say, the meat, if your skillet is not fully non-stick, you can have those burnt little pieces of meat or residue at the bottom of your pan. And if I did all this in a big boiler, that residue can cause the sauce to stick or have burning or any of that kind of thing. So by pre-cooking everything before combining it into the larger pot, hopefully we'll keep everything from sticking to the bottom. Even though the big pot that I have is a double layer stainless pot, depending on what you're working with, you may not have a double layer that reduces the chance of burn on and stick on. So by doing it in a couple extra pans, it's only a little bit extra wash up. You're just going to cut down on that potential of burning and make sure everything is cooked all the way through. And I'll do the ground beef, and then we're going to combine that with our veg and get all those tastes mingling together. Alright, so let's get the ground beef here now. Actually, I'm going to put a bit of oil in this pan. Get the heat on. Again, I do everything at full heat, at least in these stages. Now, I'll get the ground beef brought a little bit close and we'll get that put into the pan here. As I've said before, I believe this is about 4 pounds of ground beef. Now that's the amount that I've always done this recipe with, so I stick to it. I don't think it really matters the quality per se of the ground beef, whether it's lean or regular. I don't really know the difference. I guess it's fat content, but anyways, it's all going to be strained at the end. So it doesn't really matter how much grease comes off of this, as long as you end up with an adequate amount of meat for the whole recipe. So anyone who's cooked ground beef before just knows you kind of just need to break it into little pieces as you go. You can leave it a bit chunky if you like, it's up to you. I like to get it broken down as small as possible. Because you think every little piece is more surface area for the eventual tomato sauces and everything to attach to and soak in and get all that taste going right through the meat. So I'll go ahead and get this beef cooked and come right back and we'll do the next step. So as you can see now, we're getting close to the ground beef being done and finished cooking. We got a lot of juice that's come out of the meat along with a little bit of oil that we added in. We're not going to let that go to waste. We'll be saving that later. But as for now, we're going to keep it in there. I'm going to let this cook a little bit longer because you got to keep in mind I'm going to be bottling this sauce, and it could be bottled in upwards of a year. So I want to make sure the meat is fully cooked all the way through, because when we combine all this into a larger colander, larger pot, it's not necessarily going to get up to the same temperature that I could get it right now. So if I can get this meat fully cooked, fully, you know, I want to say sanitized, but, you know, get it up to the proper cooking temperature to kill off anything that may have been in the meat. It's easier to do it at this stage when it's in a pot by itself and you can really cook the guts of it, you know. Just really get it to a high temperature, get rid of anything, pathogens or anything that may have been a threat to your health. And ground beef is something, you know, it's not going to be worse off for being overcooked, right? You're going for a well done consistency and temperature anyways. Alright, so we're going to be keeping all this juice, and when this is finished cooking, I'll come back and I'll show you what we're going to do from this point forward. Alright, we're back. The ground beef is finished cooking, so I'm going to turn off the heat there for now and just move that over a little bit. Actually, I'll move it to this side. And I'm going to take what we did previously, the veg, put that there. It hasn't lost much heat, still steaming. And I'm going to transfer the ground beef in with the veg because I want all that meaty flavor to mingle with the vegetables and soak in there as well. Okay, we don't want any flavor lost in this process. So, transfer it on here like that. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to let this pan cool down before I wash it because I don't want to warp it. Just a little tidbit of information for you. Alright, so I'll lay that in the sink out of the way. And now I'm going to take this new mixture, put the heat back on high, and just start getting everything mixed together. And just kind of folding it all in on itself until we get a uniform consistency through it. So you can notice when we started, there was no way all this would have fit in one pan to start off, but by cooking both of them separately, everything's reduced down to the point now where it all fits together in this larger frying pan. Alright, so I'm just going to continue folding this in together, let it simmer a bit, let all those flavors combine and mingle together, and we're going to have a lovely, lovely base to start throwing some spaghetti sauces in. Like I say, the meat was cooked to a nice high temperature, so it should be free of anything harmful. The veg is fully cooked, also to that point. So everything in here now should be pretty much sterile. And we can assume that the canning company did a good job, and all that is sterile. So as far as bottling goes, there shouldn't be anything harmful going into these bottles. Once everything is said and done, you know. So, you know, a lot of prep and just taking your time, thinking things through, you can avoid a lot of canning mistakes of putting uncooked meat into bottles and risking your family's health. If you just take your time, cook things the way they're supposed to be cooked, then combine it all into your recipe when the recipe is appropriate to do that. Alright, so I'll go ahead, continue folding this in, mix it all together, let it simmer away a little bit. Like I say, let those tastes and everything combine, and I'll come back and show you what we do next after that. Alrighty, so as this is going to simmer away, I've got the heat turned down on low right now, just so it doesn't overcook. Because what I want to be doing while this all mixes and combines, I'm going to start opening up all these cans of sauces, alright? It's not a, it's not an intricate task or anything by any means. Quite simplistic, but anyways, that's what I'm going to do. Get everything opened up, ready to go. because when I remove the meat and veg mixture, I want to try and preserve as much heat as possible, because all these sauces are at room temperature. We got to get these up to boiling. So the more you have ready to go nice and quickly, the better it'll be as far as wait time to get everything up to temperature. So I'll get these all opened up here now, and we should be coming back. I'll show you the next plan. There's one more step before we start combining everything together, and I'll share that with you in just a moment. Alright, so at this point in time I got everything all opened up there on the counter. The meat and veg mixture is ready. So the next thing that I do is I get a regular plastic spaghetti strainer, a metal bowl, and I'm just going to put the strainer on top of the bowl like that, lay that down in the sink, and I'm going to take my mixture and put it into the strainer and strain off any extra grease or juice that's in the pan. And the reason I do that is because when you start adding in all your tomato sauces and spaghetti sauces, you don't really want that grease and everything to eventually make its way up through the sauce and settle at the top of your sauce. So by straining it out before I add in all that sauce, it should eliminate that and just remove that extra grease. And as for now, most of the taste should be locked into the veg and into the meat, so you're not going to lose much in that sense. And what you strain off here, you could actually keep, if there is enough of an amount, you could keep that around and use it, whether you add a little bit of thickening, or whether you use it as a little bit of a dipping sauce for like a Philly cheesesteak, something like that. It's a very tasty mix of leftover grease and taste. So I'm kind of drooling just thinking about it actually. So I'm going to lay this in the sink. I'll bring you guys over, show you how I do it, and we'll see how much juice comes out. But any amount of juice is good, because that's extra juice that's not going to be settling at the top of your spaghetti sauce. Alright, it's just an extra step that I do, and I find it works out well. So let's do it now. Alright, so here's our mixture. Be carefully, they say the bowl is smaller than the strainer, so it can tip. So I'm trying to be a bit careful with it and just hit the middle of the strainer. I realize the back of the pan is to you guys right now, so you're not really seeing this pour in. But just take my word that I'm aiming right for the middle of the strainer, and I'm just gently coaxing it in so as not to tip things over here. You can hear that juice straining. And it smells delicious. Okay, so I'll let that strain a little bit. Give a few little presses around the edge. Okay, just getting all that extra moisture and grease out of there. And I'll let that sit for a little bit, and I'm going to go get my larger cooking pot now and lay that over on the cooktop. Let that drip in there a little bit, and then we'll be ready to start combining things. Alright, so what I got here is a stainless steel, I don't even know what you call it, a broiler, or not a broiler, but a stock pot, you know, soup pot, whatever you want to call it. And as I said before, this is a double wall construction pot, so that keeps the direct stove heat or cooktop heat from going right into your food, which can easily cause charring and burning. So instead, it's kind of got a little bit of a hollow core between the two layers, which allows that heat to be a bit less direct. And now don't get me wrong, it can still burn, and I have burned things in it. But it makes it harder to burn. So keep that in mind. Now as far as size goes, I thought there was volume markings on this, but it's stainless steel. Anyways, I know this holds about 8 liters or so. So that'd be like 2 gallons, thereabouts, maybe a little more. And it's the perfect size for the volume of spaghetti sauce that I make. Alright, so I'm going to grab my meat mixture now from the sink, and we'll put that in the pot. It's finished dripping. Just shake the last bit off and quickly go to the pot. Okay, and in it goes. And I'll just show you now what we have strained. Probably can't even get the right angle to really show. There you go. Okay, so we still did a lot of juice and grease and stuff that came off. Probably a bit better to show you that way. And I'm going to keep that, like I say, that's a really nice, tasty dipping sauce. If you had like a Philly cheesesteak, something like that, you just kind of dip that in there as like an au jus. Very tasty. Probably not the healthiest, you know, with all the grease and everything in there, but you know what, taste is taste. So use it at your own discretion. Alright, so meat mixture's in the pot. Pot's ready to go. It's nice and clean. We got no charring, no leftover burnt meat, no burnt veg, no nothing in the pot. It's nice smooth walls. That'll cut down on the chance of any sticking, burning, all that good stuff. So I'll bring you in a little bit closer and we'll start dumping all these cans into the pot. And that's when the magic's gonna finally finish up. So come on in. So here we go. Got my trusty wooden spoon for scraping out the inside of the cans. And it doesn't really matter where you start. I'll just start at the closest one to me. So this is the diced tomatoes. And there you go. And some more diced tomatoes. Tomato. Like I said, this is the easier part. This is tomato sauce. And these are the ones you kind of really need to scrape the inside of the can out, because just watch how much extra I get by scraping the can out. Alright, there's lots stuck to the sides of the can. Every bit counts. Let's do a little pizza sauce, not pizza sauce, but spaghetti sauce. This is definitely one of the funner parts. And you get some real good volume here. Like I say, I've fine-tuned this over the years. I used to just do a spaghetti sauce with meat, and then peppers and onions, and I added more onions. Then I wanted more volume because I found it was almost more like a chili. It was almost too thick. So then I added in the tomato sauce and the diced tomatoes, and that added a bit more liquidity to it and just made it a lighter sauce while still being a very thick and rich sauce. It just wasn't so much like a chili. And also, I do have a chili recipe that I do intend on making someday soon. Very similar in process to exactly where we got to before dumping these cans in. Hate to spoil it, right? But a lot of the process is the same. Like I say, that pepper, onion, garlic mix is like an amazing base for a lot of recipes, including like quesadilla mix, You know, anything you kind of want that nice pepper onion base to. And then you throw in a favorite meat, and then season it to taste and add whatever extra elements you need, similar to spaghetti sauce, chili powder, chili sauces, all that stuff. So look forward to that video happening at some point. But as for now, like I say, this is a recipe that I do at most twice a year, but usually it's kind of a once a year thing. And I just make a lot of it, as you see. And then bottle it off. And it just kind of goes in our recipe rotation. And it's amazing how when you have these things bottled down in your pantry, you can kind of be a last minute person for supper. And normally if you're really last minute, you're so tempted to go get takeout. But when you know that you got a sauce already bottled down in your pantry, you can just grab it and heat it up in a pot. It helps you avoid getting takeout sometimes and save you that bit of money. So, and this is, I'd like to think this is a pretty healthy meal when we do have it. So, alright, so that's all, everything mixed in. I'm going to give it a stir. Start getting things incorporated. Get the heat back on high. I'm not going to keep the heat on high for long. I'm going to prefer more of a gentle heating throughout the whole mixture. And a big part of that is when you're into thick sauces like this, it just starts spattering all over the place. And I already wiped down the backsplash today. I'm not in the mood to do it again. So other than that, this sauce is kind of complete, except for heating it up. But at that point in time, of course, I always add my own little pizzazz to it and salt and pepper it to taste. And I like to think that my taste buds are actually quite good at knowing a good mixture of salt and pepper. So, as I said, I've had many good reviews on this, so I can be a little bit narcissistic over my spaghetti sauce. So you'll have to forgive my ego when it comes to this, but my wife, God love her, she did not like spaghetti. She was not a spaghetti lover at all before she met me, and now she dies for this. Okay, so I gotta take credit where credit's due, I think. And the kids love it. Lots of meat, protein, vegetables, pretty healthy. So there you go. So we'll let this heat up, and I'll come back, show you guys salting and peppering it to taste, and then the sauce is pretty much complete. Alright, thanks for joining so far. We'll see you in a second, and season this, and the sauce is done. Alright, so we're back, and this is not fully up to a boil yet by any means, but it is warm enough that it would dissolve salt and take the pepper in it okay, and start to release the flavors from it. So I've had a little taste, and it's almost good, but there is a hint of freshness. I don't know how to describe it to you. It's just a hint of freshness, and it needs that extra little bit of salt. Now, if you're doing this for, you know, a large group of people, it might be fine as it is, right? Because different tastes are quite different. And finding that right mix of salt for everybody can be difficult. I live in Newfoundland, Canada. Our diet here is historically high in salt. And so we have a higher tolerance to it, and we're used to adding more to our foods than somewhere else may be. So you got to keep that in mind, that when these companies make these spaghetti sauces and such, they are tailoring the recipe to a wider audience. And so when it comes to someone like us who are used to more salt, like we literally during a cooked dinner can have salt beef, which is a cured beef in salt. probably one of the saltiest things you could taste. And we eat that on a regular basis. A lot of people do anyways, traditionally. And I'm still drooling here because from the taste is actually good, and it's getting close to supper time and I'm hungry. So anyways, I'm going to start off. This is just your regular Costco black pepper with the little windmill at the top, little crusher. So I'm quite happy to put a good amount of that in there. And that's just to add a little hint of heat and taste, because in a previous iteration of this recipe I had like a big bottle of pickled peppers from Costco. It was a mix of banana peppers and jalapeno peppers, and I used to take probably 10 or 20 slices of those and add it just to put a little bit of kick into the sauce. But as time went on and the big bottle of peppers got older and they started losing their color and got a bit old in age, I stopped using them, and we just never used enough out of the bottle to justify buying another one. So I've made do without the hot peppers. So if you're just adding some regular pepper, we'll add a little bit of heat. Not much heat per se in a black pepper, but you know what I mean. A little bit of kick. And then I also need some salt. So you got to remember now, this is about 8 liters of spaghetti sauce. So I'd say if I had to quantify the amount of salt I just added, I want to say 2 teaspoons. Right, it looked like a long pour, but you know, it's a small nozzle. So I'm going to start off with that much. I say it's hard to quantify seasoning because, like I say, you kind of got to do it yourself and taste it as you go. I've known from previous experience that the amount of salt I just put in there that time is probably about half of what I actually put in. But my tastes are actually changing a bit lately as well. I've been making do with less salt in my diet. Kind of a healthier choice as well. Don't get me wrong, I do love my salt. And I love my French fries with lots of salt. So I'm going to give that a good stir in. And I'll give it a taste. So I got the drawer next to me with my spoons and everything. As I taste, I'm actually going to be doing kind of what professional chefs do and have multiple spoons, because you don't want to be having a taste, putting it in your mouth and back into the pot, because there's no guarantee that you're at a temperature that's going to kill the bacteria that was just in your mouth that you're putting into the pot. So my sink is filled up with soapy water. I'm going to have 1 spoon for 1 taste, throw it right into the sink, it'll soak and it'll be clean in no time. But just that food safety thing, don't be tasting and then putting the spoon back into the pot. There's no guarantee you're going to kill off that bacteria. And unfortunately, the human mouth is one of the dirtiest things you can possibly sample from. It's actually quite good there. A little bit more pepper though. 1 more round of pepper. I think we'll be pretty good after this round of pepper. And developing your own taste for seasonings, just going to come with trial and error and what you like. And the more you experiment, the more you'll figure out what you do like. No one taste is good for everybody. Little hint of salt more. So I think we're up to what, about 2.5 teaspoons of salt right now? That's my guesstimate anyways. Alright, I think this will be the final test. So I'm going to make it a good one. Get some diced tomato in it. Yep, that's it. It is done. Alright, so I'm just going to bring this up to a boil. And I'm going to be bottling this right after this video, and I think I will actually make another video on bottling this, and so look for that. It'll come out after this video, and but it'll be shot today, but I think this video is long enough for one video, a recipe video, and I'll make the bottling video be a separate one altogether. There we have it. I think you'll be quite happy with this sauce if you make it. What do you say? I don't know about, you know, taking the volume down or the portions. I always designed this recipe around this amount. So, you know, it's a bit of an investment if you don't know if you're going to like my sauce. But if you can do everything that I've done in this video, I'm quite convinced that you will enjoy this sauce. As long as you enjoyed everything that went into it, I think the ratio of everything in there, the taste of everything in there, I think you will totally enjoy this spaghetti sauce. Alright, so that's going to conclude today's video of making our spaghetti sauce. Like I said, hopefully you guys try it, hopefully you enjoy it, and from our kitchen to yours, hope you're happy. Hope you're healthy. Take care of each other.
And peace out.